The Perfect Archangelic Advanced Practice Registered Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Ambulatory Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Business Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Bariatric Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Camp Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Cardiac Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Cardiac Cath Lab Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Case Management Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Clinical Nurse Leader. The Perfect Archangelic Clinical Nurse Specialist. The Perfect Archangelic Community Health Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Complementary Health Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Correctional Facility Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Critical Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Dermatology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Developmental Disability Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Diabetes Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Dialysis Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Domestic Violence Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Emergency Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Ethics Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Family Nurse Practitioner. The Perfect Archangelic Flight/Transport Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Forensic Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Gastroenterology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Genetics Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Geriatric Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Gerontological Nurse Practitioner. The Perfect Archangelic Gynecology/Obstetric Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Health Policy Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Hematology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic HIV/AIDS Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Holistic Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Home Healthcare Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Hospice/Palliative Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Independent Nurse Contractor. The Perfect Archangelic Infection Control Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Informatics Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Infusion Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic International Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Labor and Delivery Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Lactation Consultation Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Legal Nurse Consultant. The Perfect Archangelic Licensed Practical Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Long-Term Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Managed Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Medical Surgical Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Military and Uniformed Service Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Missionary Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Neonatal Intensive Care Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Nephrology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Neuroscience Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Anesthetist. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Attorney. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Educator. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Legislator. The Perfect Archangelic Life Care Planning Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Midwife. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Practitioner. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Researcher. The Perfect Archangelic Advocacy Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Entrepreneur. The Perfect Archangelic Nursing Executive and Nursing CEO. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Manager and Nurse Administration. The Perfect Archangelic Quality Improvement Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Nurse Writer, Author, or Historian. The Perfect Archangelic Occupational Health Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Oncology Nurse. Cancer Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Operating Room Nurse, Perioperative Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Ophthalmic Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Orthopedic Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Otorhinolaryngology Nurse, Head and Neck Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Overseas, Volunteer, Missionary, or Refugee Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Pain Management Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Parish Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Pediatric Endocrinology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Pediatric Nurse Practitioner. The Perfect Archangelic Pediatric Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Peri-Anesthesia Nurse, Pre-Anesthesia, and Post-Anesthesia Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Perinatal Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Plastic Surgery Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Poison Information Specialist. The Perfect Archangelic Psychiatric Nurse Practitioner. The Perfect Archangelic Psychiatric Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Public Health Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Pulmonary Care Nurse, Respiratory Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Radiology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Registered Nurse, RN. The Perfect Archangelic Rehabilitation Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Reproductive Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Rheumatology Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. The Perfect Archangelic School Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Subacute Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Substance Abuse Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Supplemental/Agency Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Surgical Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Telemetry Nurse. The Perfect Archangelic Telephone Triage Nurse. the perfect Archangelic toxicology nurse, the perfect Archangelic transcultural nurse,